So for our first stop, we're going to the Islamic Center of Caneo Valley to speak with Imam Muhammad a little bit more about the Islamic culture.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Victoria Cypress, and I'm here at the Islamic Center of Caneo Valley. I'm here to interview Imam Muhammad.
Yes.
And can you tell me a little bit about this mosque?
My name is Imam Muhammad. I'm the Imam here for approximately roughly 2 years. This mosque, if I'm not mistaken, is a little over 2 decades old. And it started off originally in a warehouse-like area. And as the need grew, they took part in building this given mosque. And I will show you its various parts. This is the mosque part, some of the classroom parts over there. And then we have more classrooms in the back for our Sunday school. And we also have a social hall.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. Thank you. So should I ask the next question in order? Do you want to go like 3, 2, 1 or something?
3, 2, 1, go.
So I understand the 5th pillar of Islam is the Hajj, the traveling to Mecca. Have you or any of your family members made the journey yet?
Yes, the Hajj has multiple aspects to it. One is a person has to go when they're mature. At the same time, it's very important for them to also have the resources to go. It's not like you just charge it in your credit card and you go. You have to have the extra resources. This way, it's not a burden to you. Some people even have the resources, but they cannot go because they have families and they cannot afford for everyone to go. So then it's not worthwhile to go and fulfill the pilgrimage, but leaving your children and family at home and making them go through difficult times. So the command regarding Hajj is, one must be capable to go, one must have the financial resources to go, one must not do and take part in creating a burden for others while they are gone. Having said that, many Muslims, I think it's not an exaggeration to say 3 to 5 million go pretty much every year. Because of COVID, it is going to be a challenge. They may have even cancelled it. I know previously they have cancelled it because of COVID. It waits to be seen what will take place this year. But have I been? Yes, I have been, and I'm willing to share the experience with you.
Can you tell us a little bit about the experience traveling to Mecca?
Sure. Many people take it as sometimes like a vacation that we are going for, but in reality, it is very far from a vacation. Imagine for a moment, 3 to 5 million people all of a sudden coming around the Thousand Oaks area. It's not going to be very, very easy.
No.
As you can see from this pictorial, there is basically this black box over there, which is called the Kaaba. And around it, we have to go approximately 7 times. There are certain rituals we take part of here. Then not too far away from this, maybe the distance from here to our Smart and Final, you got to do the next action, wherein we commemorate what Abraham went through. He went through certain challenges, etc. And it is to sort of liven that moment back, so to speak, for ourselves and sort of resemble what he has done. Then there will be another part that you have to go through, wherein you will sacrifice an animal. That is again something that is part of the Abrahamic tradition. So there are not too many rituals to do. So it's more of a spiritual thing to create it. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is all about. Now many people come back, was it fun? Was it this? Was it that? It's nothing to do with fun or not fun. It's a duty. You do it, fulfill that obligation towards God, and go back to your respective homes.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much.
You want to ask the last question somewhere else?
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, do you want
These are the classrooms, all these here.
At what age do people start learning about the Quran?
We have a pre-kindergarten school, and from there on they go to the age of 13, 14. Real simple office. There's one classroom over here. What major are you?
I am a psychology major.
Oh, I see.
Visiting the mosque was a nice experience, but I'd still like to learn more about different religions. So I'm heading over to the Cal Lutheran campus to interview my fellow student and ask him about his personal relationship with religion. Hi, so I'm on the Cal Lutheran campus to interview my fellow student Zach, who grew up in a
Hi everyone.
Did you attend any religious schools growing up?
I did. I attended a Hebrew school called Kila Marav, which was also a synagogue.
Did you have a bar mitzvah growing up?
I did when I was 14. No, actually no, I was 13 at the time.
13.
Yes.
Do you still practice Judaism?
Occasionally, my family is not super religious. We occasionally attend service for holidays like Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur and whatnot. Occasionally we do Shabbat but usually if it's a Friday and if it's a special occasion, say we have family over or whatnot.
How often would you attend temple growing up?
Like I said earlier, usually when it's a holiday, so maybe 4 times a year. Again, depending on holiday or special occasion, etc.
So growing up, did you feel like your elementary school and middle school is religiously diverse? Or do we need more religious pluralism?
Growing up in LA, it was pretty diverse. LA has a somewhat substantial Jewish population in it, so I would say like it's religiously diverse.
That's good. Have you read the book Night?
I have in high school. It's a very interesting book and very intense.
In my middle school, they read it around, I think, 7th grade. So I think 12 or 11 years old. At what age do you think people should start reading the book Night?
Middle school is pretty young. I'm surprised they have that for middle school. I read it in high school in the 11th grade. It was again, it is very intense, to say the least. So I would recommend it for high school. It is absolutely a requirement though for school.
Because in the book by Elie Wiesel, he kind of hears his father dying, but through the process of being in the concentration camps, he like loses his faith. So as his dad's dying and calling out to his name, he doesn't answer. So it's a pretty heavy book.
Yeah.
So you think, what age did you say?
High school. So I was in the 11th grade, so I had been 17 when that happened. When I read that, again, it's very breathtaking to read.
Yeah, it's a necessary book. I believe.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Of course, my pleasure.
Hello, Pastor Eric. It's nice to meet you. My name is Victoria Cypress, and I'm a student at Cal Lutheran University. I would like to ask you a few questions involving Lutheranism, if that's okay with you.
Yes, it's nice to meet you, Victoria, and glad I can help out with your project.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about this church?
Yeah, this church is Holy Trinity Lutheran Church. So we are a part of what is called the ELCA, that is Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. So it's a little confusing whenever I'm kind of talking to people who are potentially new members who aren't already ELCA. I describe to them how just as Christianity has a lot of different denominations, different kinds of Christianity, Lutheranism within itself has different kinds of Lutheranism, you might say, where in terms of the theology is a little different emphasis, some of their worship practices are a little different. So we're a part of the ELCA Lutheran Church. We're the largest Lutheran body in North America. And this church has been here 1959. They started in some chicken coops over at California Lutheran University.
They started in some chicken coops. My goodness.
And from there, it was a mission start. Pastor Bob Lawson started the church. And after they began to grow, they were able to attain this property that we are currently on right now. And the first church was over here in the fellowship hall. About 1960, they officially became a part of what was then, I believe, the Augustana Lutheran Synod. Since then, other synods have combined. And at about 1986, this sanctuary was built. And then just last year, we actually added two new preschool classrooms that have been built since then too. So church has grown over the years, and part of that is in terms of size of congregation, part of that is mission. You know, when they built the first buildings over here, it was for Sunday school classes, and they said, these Sunday school classes are sitting here all week, just empty. What else can we do? And so they had the dream of doing a preschool, Honey Tree Preschool. So we've had that preschool now for, oh boy, I think it's over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
We've had the preschool here since then as well. So that's just a little brief,
a brief history
of Holy Trinity, how we got here, and what kind of Lutheranism we are. And I could say more about that later if you'd like me to.
Okay, so I understand that Martin Luther was the father of the Protestant. Could you explain to me why he posted his 95 Theses? They were about indulgences of the church, but what exactly are indulgences?
Yeah, well, there were 95 theses, and we would probably need a lot longer video to go through all of those. But one of the main sticking points, yes, was the whole idea of indulgences. And, you know, for Luther, he really struggled with the idea of being assured that he was saved and that he was going to go to heaven after he died. And in the Catholic tradition at the particular time, there was a lot of emphasis on, you know, getting kind of credit, if you will, in your earthly life to then be able to go into your heavenly life afterwards. And Luther was never quite sure if he had enough credit or not. And when he did kind of have his revelation, based on study of scriptures, particularly passages like in Romans, he realized that grace was a free gift from God. It wasn't something you could earn. And this is why the idea of indulgences particularly upset him. Because indulgences was the idea that you could give some money to the church, at that time it was predominantly the Catholic Church, and in doing so, you could obtain forgiveness of your sins. Or you could obtain favor not just for yourself, but perhaps for a loved one. For example, there was a man, I think his name was Tetzel, who was one of the Catholic workers who was getting these indulgences. And there was a saying that, you know, every time money in the coffer rings, a soul from purgatory springs. So the idea was that if you weren't sure if your relatives were really truly in heaven, if they were kind of in the in-between stage, you could give some money and then they would be free. And this kind of jostled him on a theological level, of course, because he believed grace was a free gift. And what if you couldn't afford to give much money to the church? It also rankled him because a lot of money was going to build a big basilica down in Rome. So that was particularly upsetting to him. And so that's one of the reasons why he does 95 Theses on the door of the church.
Yeah. This kind of goes on to my next question. It's actually a quote from James Baldwin's book, Go Tell It on the Mountain. In the quote, it says, salvation was real for all these others, and it might be real for him. Now, what does the Lutheran Church believe when it comes to salvation, based on Martin Luther's beliefs?
Yeah, so I already sort of began to say that in the previous question. Focused around being saved by grace through faith alone. So what that means is grace is that which you cannot earn. It is a free gift, something you don't even deserve at all, and yet it comes to you. So Luther believed that because of the death of Jesus Christ, we have been saved through that grace. So it wasn't something we did, it was God's action through Jesus on the cross, and then through the miracle of the resurrection after he had died. So because of that, salvation isn't about how good you are. It's not about, you know, how great a person you are, how many acts of charity you've done, or even how great you show love to others. It's really none of that. It's first and foremost a gift from God. And the beauty of that is, you know, as Luther really expressed and as he struggled with, he realized, you know, we can never be good enough. You can try as hard as you want, but because of sin being those things that separate us from God, that we constantly, either in our thoughts, in the things that we do, or things that we forget to do, or refuse to do, or are scared to do, we're going to fall short of what God really calls us to be in the world. And so because we can never truly be good enough, we need God's grace. And that's the only way that we can really attain salvation. And the gift in that is not that then, okay, I can go do whatever I want, because, oh, it's a free gift. No, I can just do whatever. I'm going to heaven. The freedom in that is, it's sort of like when a girlfriend or boyfriend or a spouse or even just a good friend or relative, says I love you to you and cares for you in a way that you realize I just messed up or something, but they still love me, you want to respond to that love. And you want to try to live out that love in return back to them. So that's sort of the idea. It's not that you would just go crazy and do whatever you want now, but the idea is because you've been loved by God, that response kind of demands or calls, in a sense, would be a better word, calls you to love in response. And in a sense, you're free then to love your neighbor, because it's not about being perfect. It's not about doing the exact right thing. It's about just doing what you can, because God's got heaven taken care of. God has saved you already through Jesus. Now go and love and serve your neighbor in the way that best possible way that you can. Even though you're going to fail sometimes, just go and try anyway, because God's taken care of heaven and wants you to live out that love now into the world. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, a little bit about what Lutherans' emphasis on salvation is.
That sounds really nice. Not so much like your deeds, but through your faith, but to still be a good person no matter what, because God's already got heaven for you.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. That's a good way to say it.
That's nice. Would you say this is a very diverse church?
If you mean diversity of ethnic background, I would say no. We have some different ethnic backgrounds in the church. We are primarily a white Caucasian church. Some of that comes from our.
But it's also locational. I mean, it is TO, so we don't have a very diverse city to begin with.
True, and it's also, some of it's our roots. We are primarily an immigrant church. That is to say, going way back into the 1600s, 1700s. But Lutheranism really came to America, like most of Christianity, of course, through Europe and European settlement. And a lot of the early Lutherans were Scandinavians, Danish, Norwegian, German, Swedish, Finnish immigrants who are primarily white. And through the years, those churches were really immigrant churches. There were literally German-speaking churches, Finnish-speaking churches, Danish-speaking churches that didn't really mix, even into the 70s and 80s. And then when they began to combine and become more English-speaking, of course, they began to expand from that. So in terms of our local church, yeah, we do have some diversity of ethnic backgrounds. We have a African-American couple, a person from China, and a person with Iranian descent. So we have some diversity, but primarily we are a white church. We do have diversity of ages. I guess that's one of the next questions. I'll wait and answer that. That's just a little bit about, on the whole, our ELCA Lutheran Church is one of the whitest churches in America, unfortunately. We're trying to work on that in terms of how do we be more welcoming to other cultures, how do we express our faith in ways that other folks would want to engage with us, where we could be more diverse, because I think that would be our ideal, we feel like we're called to do. But it's a work in progress when culturally you're sort of really been in one culture for a long time. But we do have, like in Los Angeles, other churches connected to our synod, our ELCA synod here. We have Spanish-speaking churches, a Chinese-speaking church, I think Taiwanese church. So we have African-American churches. And of course, worldwide, there are Lutherans, all over the world as well.
So what's the particular age range you would say that attends this church?
We range from, we don't have any infants right now that I'm aware of. We have some toddlers, all the way up to, we have a person who I believe is, 100 now.
Oh wow, 100.
So yeah, that whole age range is there. We do tend, in terms of a worship service, if you were to come here and attend a worship service, you would think that we're a little older church. Our traditional service, a lot of the folks are 65 and older. Our informal service, where we have the band and the praise music, we do have younger families. They're not always as consistent. So if you, again, on a Sunday, also because of COVID, we're just beginning to get back into outdoor in-person services. So you wouldn't see a lot of younger people, but we do have them in our church.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be interviewed, and I had a really nice time learning more about Lutheranism.
Yeah, it's good to be with you.
Mm-hmm.